Welcome to Bunch Formation, your newest favorite college football podcast. My name is Chris Vannini, and I think it might be time for Bill Belichick to move. Get out the way, get out the way, get out the way.
I didn't like your commitment to that. I'm David Ubben, and I did not call timeouts with 15 seconds and 1 second left in a 28-point game on Saturday. But I did see the Ludacris at 10 a.m. on a college campus. Chris,
this is the most important thing.
What
a
weekend.
Important thing from the weekend. We need the report from the 10 a.m. Ludacris concert before North Carolina-Clemson. David, you were there. How was it?
We're going to do a tight 20 minutes on this concert. Listen, the crowd was pretty good. There was a lot more people there than I thought there would be. I'm not going to throw a number on it, but I'll just say, I forget what it's basically a quad on UNC's campus. I'm not super familiar with the campus, but it was a good crowd. And Ludacris actually performed. There wasn't a lot of just play the track and rap a couple lines. He was getting after it, and it was a good, as whatever expectation anyone had for a free Ludacris concert at 10 a.m. before a football game that was a debacle. Nobody left that show disappointed. I'll just say that. And I can tell you with certainty that the 50-something moms in front of me who perhaps had a few too many Modelo's at 9 a.m, they definitely didn't leave disappointed in the concert. So, hey, I think people enjoyed it. Luda, man, it was a weirdly diverse crowd. I didn't know if he resonated with Gen Z, but it was a lot of college kids. That'd be like if we were in college and Biz Markie was performing. I don't know that I'm getting up at 9 a.m. to go see him on my campus, but hey,
yeah.
They did. So shout out to UNC students and alumni and Luda, man.
Yeah, that's exclusive reporting here for Bunch Formation, by the way. No other college football podcast was out there at that concert giving you what you needed to know. That's why you went to the game, really. It wasn't about what happened afterward, which we'll get into.
No.
It was about that. So I'm glad he had a good time. I know Ludacris said it was the earliest he'd ever performed. So hope he got a good bag for that. I know
people were kind of laughing.
I'm sure the FOIAs are in the bank to see how much it costs. That'll be fun. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. Penn State, North Carolina, Florida, Texas Tech, all kinds of stuff. Before we get to that, show notes, if you want to jump ahead, the timestamps. I do add ads into it after it's edited, so you may need to jump ahead a minute or two after that for it to line up. Send all your feedback, please, to bunchformationpod@gmail.com. Please leave us a 5-star review on Apple and a comment on Spotify. We read every one of those on the show because we appreciate you and we like talking about how great we are. So Apple review here from Crimson Chin 251. Shout out from South Alabama. I wish the Jaguars were good enough to warrant discussion, but I do appreciate that you guys talk about the group of 5 quite often. There are a good bit of us that find that stuff interesting. Appreciate the work that you do. Thank you, Crimson Chin. Sorry for the loss to Troy. The Battle of the Belt goes to the Trojans. Troy and South Alabama, by the way, if you don't know, play for a pro wrestling championship belt. That is the trophy. And we love that.
They've been doing that since 1850, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, I think that's how it goes. Review from Nicholas Moss. There was once a time when I could spend my fall Saturdays watching football from game day in the morning through the primetime matchups. With 2 kids under 5 and under, I can relate, Ubben, and a lot else going on. The time has come and went. Thankfully, David and Chris have made careers out of doing just this, and they help me fill the gaps. College football is by far my favorite sport. I can tell these guys love it for the right reasons. I've learned a ton about the game and the ever-changing college football enterprise from them, and I'm so glad they found another forum to share their spirited, thoughtful analysis. Finally, as a Miami grad, I agree. Bring back the turnover chain, but only against Manny Diaz and Duke. Keep it going, guys. I'll definitely be listening. We got a lot to talk about with Miami.
Yeah.
And Duke. And Duke. We did jinx them on the Bunch Formation After Dark.
There's no Chris. It was a you. It was you that jinxed them.
It was the Bunch Formation universe. So we did an After Dark on Saturday night. It's on the Bunch Formation YouTube page. I was going for about a half hour on my own before David got home and jumped in. But before David jumped on, we were talking about how great Cal looked. They were up 21-7 on Duke, and then they gave up 31 straight points and lost. So
I don't know how Cal fans do it, man. They're that's one of the craziest teams it just feels like nobody has been on a wilder roller coaster the last few years than Cal. I mean, were they 4-0 or 5-0 going into the Miami game last year, and then lost and finished like 5-7?
I like Cal because they've become kind of the after dark team. They're like the only notable team sometimes playing at 10:30 at night, and so I go to sleep watching them play very weird football games. But Cal and Duke, we see you. So with that, it's time to get into the weekend that was. It's time to get into the game recaps.
Kids are playing their tail off, and the coaches are screwing it up.
Thank you, John L. Smith. We start with the big one, obviously. UCLA 42, Penn State 37. It did not go well.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
That's right, Eric Collins. A disaster of a performance for Penn State. Nico Iamaleava's out there looking like Vince Young, according to Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson. Plays very well. Penn State is stuffed on fourth down. They were down. It was 27-7 UCLA at one point. Penn State rallies, but it's not enough. Jerry Neuheisel, named offensive coordinator like 4 days ago, is carried off the field just like he was as a player when he beat Texas 11 years ago. Tim Skipper, the interim head coach, has made a lot of changes there. And UCLA looked like they were playing fun, playing with life. Penn State, we'll talk about you in a second, and James Franklin and all that. I got a column on that. But David, you were busy at North Carolina Clemson, but your feelings on this game and everything it means.
Vibe shift, man. Like, nobody thought UCLA was going to be great coming into this year, but there's no way anybody thought they were going to be that bad. And so for them to sort of tap into that,
we thought they would be winless like a week ago.
They were looking at it. And so I think just, you never know how the interim coach thing is going to go. Shout out to Arkansas. We'll see what happens there. But
smile.
The yes, John L. The vibe shift can really affect some stuff. And it felt like just Deshaun Foster had gone stale there. And that was not the same UCLA team that we've seen. Now, on the Penn State side of things, it felt like you just kind of walk in there and think, well, every carry is going to go for 8 yards. Every offensive possession is going to be a 3 and out. It's going to be 42-0 at halftime, and we'll be chilling, having some dogs and burgers on the sideline in the second half. No. And I think, James Franklin alluded to it after the game, Chris, and we'll get to your thoughts on this. When you come into a game like that, UCLA marches down the field. They get the onside kick when they really caught Penn State with their pants down. That's not a particularly well executed onside kick. That's like Penn State not doing anything.
Yes, it was 10-0 UCLA before Penn State touched the ball because they scored a touchdown, onside kick, field goal.
And I think when that happens, you can see a sense of panic sometimes. And Penn State was sort of playing like that. And, man, just not a game that inspires a lot of faith in the intestinal fortitude of the program. And I was texting with some of our guys last night. It is sort of unfortunate that Penn State didn't beat Oregon a week ago, because I cannot think of a funnier outcome than Penn State finally winning the big one and then losing on the road to an 0-4 terrible team a week later. But instead, now they can't win the big one as usual, and the little ones that James Franklin seemed to have always been adept at winning. I mean, we haven't seen Penn State lose this game. I mean, this was a new experience.
Correct. And that's the thing I think changes the calculus with James Franklin and his future there. You can't fire him. His buyout is $50 million, but it only costs $2 million for him to go leave and take another job. And it might be time to wonder if an amicable parting of ways would be the best for both sides. It feels like he's kind of run his course there and not been able to get over the hump. And now you're losing such an upset of a game that we haven't seen in years.
Yeah.
The kind that James Franklin was never losing before. And I think about John Calipari at Kentucky. He was winning big in the regular season, falling short in the NCAA tournament. Couldn't fire him. He takes the Arkansas job. And now both sides are pretty happy. He's happy. Kentucky's happy. I think both sides can do better here. And I do wonder, as more jobs come open and what will be a very busy coaching carousel, James Franklin will have a lot of people who would be interested in him going there. So you got a lot of you have season left to play. You could beat Ohio State and Indiana and get to the playoff, even though James Franklin has never won in Columbus. It's not done, but it's the point where you start thinking about it. And I think it's not something I expected coming into the season. Penn State was my preseason number 1 team. I picked them to win the championship. They were doing the same playbook as Michigan and Ohio State. A bunch of guys come back instead of going to the NFL, and you go win the national championship. Instead, this team is very likely to miss the playoff, which I didn't think was possible. What do you think about that idea about Franklin?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I wonder if Arkansas calls if you answer. I mean, UCLA, I think if I'm James Franklin, I'm at the top of the list. Obviously, Saturday sort of complicates that, but it feels like you kind of have to at this point. It's just so toxic at Penn State. Every time they lose, the fans are yelling at him. His kids have got to like hug him on the field. He just looks like downtrodden and unappreciated. And Penn State fans have seen this program not look great. And I see both sides of it. I understand the frustration from Penn State fans. I think it's fair, but also it can get a lot worse. And I think from James Franklin, this team is underachieving. They've already underachieved for this year, but in the same breath, it's the same story over and over. So it just feels like you're right, Chris. Both sides here it's not a healthy marriage. Sometimes it's better to part ways here.
Yeah, and I saw some people say, well, what about the Bo Pelini thing? You want more, you fire the coach, and you're never quite the same again.
I mean, it's a risk. It is what it is.
It's very different. Penn State is one of the best funded football teams in the country. Mm-hmm. They have natural recruiting bases. They've got everything there. Fundamentals aren't changing like they changed for Nebraska when suddenly you couldn't have 140 players on your roster. Penn State will be fine. They're not going to fall to the 3 and 9s that they were in the early 2000s. They're too set up to not do that. But I think about Mark Richt in Georgia, and Mark Richt was very good, but he couldn't beat Alabama. He couldn't get over the hump. And so what they did was they fired Richt, went and hired Kirby Smart, and he won 2 national championships. So and
it's worth noting, Chris, not to interrupt, but the way that Kirby has taken the program to the next level, I think erases how controversial the Richt decision was.
Yes, he was fired after a 9-win season.
Locally, nationally, everyone was kind of like, are you sure about that? And of course, now when you're winning, you got 2 national championships, those things, people forget those things. But that was way more controversial than sort of Penn State and James Franklin sort of like, hey, can we can we figure something out here?
And you're not firing him. It'd be like, hey, is there a job that opens? Is there a Florida, an Auburn, or whatever? You could do a lot worse than James Franklin, who did a good job at Vanderbilt. I think he would be sought after if it's something he wants to do, because it's
totally agree.
It's going to ultimately have to be his decision, because they can't fire him, like we said. Real quick, shout out to Nico, by the way, Nico Imaliava. Great game. A guy who's taken a lot of heat for the decision to leave Tennessee in the way that played out. Good for him.
The decision was obviously bad, but he hasn't played that bad. He hasn't been great, but he hasn't been anywhere close to the top of UCLA's issues this year. I think it probably starts with the defense. I mean, he's everywhere, but Nico had not really been near the top of those issues, and it was great to see him have some moments. And I don't know what the numbers finished at, Chris, but in the fourth quarter, Nico had 130 rushing yards, and Nick Singleton and Katron Allen had 90.
Yep.
What a thing.
What a thing. That changes a lot. So Penn State's got Ohio State at the end of the month, and then Indiana right after that. So if they lose something before then who the heck knows? But before we go,
it's worth, you mentioned the Neuheisel thing. Couple things. One, check out Scott Docterman's story on Rick Neuheisel on The Athletic.
Did you see the CBS playing the clips of Neuheisel?
I did. It was awesome.
That was so
awesome.
Cool.
That was like college football, father and sons, generational tradition. That was there's too much college football in one clip. It was so many of the things that make the sport special. But my question is, were the players aware of the Jerry Neuheisel moment a decade ago? They had to be, right?
I have no idea.
That can't be coincidence. That it's weird to carry the offensive coordinator off the field and dump Gator. That's a weird thing. But if you're sort of paying homage to a guy who loves UCLA and provided another great UCLA moment like a decade ago, then I sort of get it. But if not, that's like some weird serendipity that I don't know that I've seen in the sport in some time.
I spent some time with Jerry at the coaches convention one year. Very fun guy, down to earth, good hang. Like we were at the bar or something like that. I think he played like football in Japan once, and he was telling us like they were like obsessed with his blonde hair because they just didn't have that over there. So fun guy, got some fun stories. Congrats to the new Heisel family and to interim head coach Tim Skipper. Jerry's getting all the attention. I think a lot of people think he's the head coach. He's not. It's Tim Skipper. Tim Skipper, by the way, who spent all of 2024 as the interim head coach at Fresno State when Jeff Tedford had to step down. So this guy's been doing interim stuff for a while here. So shout out to both of them. All right. Florida State 28, Miami 22, a game that was not as close as the final score, though it did get a little close late.
Not a good football game overall.
No, but Florida, it was 28-3 at one point. Miami just wore them down. I think I read the score wrong. Miami 28, Florida State 22. Apologies. Miami wins this game. Miami just wore them down as it went on, kind of the way I expected. And ultimately, the talent won out. Carson Beck was better. The Miami Lions were better. Malachi Toney, the Miami receiver, was better. Ruben Bain was better. Like, it's just this is Miami, as we've said a couple times, one of the three best teams in the country, clearly. And at this point, it'd be a stunner if they don't make the playoff, especially with the schedule they have left. The toughest game is maybe at SMU, and they've got at Pitt at the end of the year. So this is a team like book Miami to the playoff, I think, at this point.
Well, I think it comes down to Miami is just built on the lines of scrimmage. And it's the same thing with Texas A&M. People can make the Miami jokes and make the A&M jokes and all that stuff. But when you watch those two teams specifically in Miami, why are they winning, Chris? They're winning because they win a lot of battles on the line of scrimmage. And when you do that consistently, your floor just keeps going up and up and up and up. And when you watch Miami, they're fun to watch because they're so good up front on both sides. And, you know, they don't have the Jeremiah Smiths, and they don't have these like gigantic, you know, stars that everybody wants to watch. Malachi Toney, I think, is going to get there before too long. He makes some unbelievable plays. He is approaching the Brandon Cooks zone of just he's open on every single play. Like Brandon Cooks, when he was at Oregon State, I remember just like uncoverable. I don't know how he did 25 catches a game every single game. And Toney, as a freshman, is knocking on that door. He just doesn't seem like anybody can cover this kid.
Yeah. 7 catches, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns. The real deal. He was the guy people were talking about in the program as like in the offseason as like he's going to be the guy. And I think we're seeing it now. Miami, number 2 in the AP poll. I think I'm putting them at number 1 just because I think the resume is better with the blowout of South Florida.
Yes.
Beat Florida, beat Notre Dame. Ohio State's maybe better, but they've won at Washington and against the Texas team that's not very good. They just kind of don't have the wins yet. So I think at this point, is it fair to say like Ohio State, Miami, Oregon locks for the playoff at this point?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. I think you look at our colleague Austin Mock's numbers, all those 3 teams are above 94%. So
there you go. Who's the next highest on there?
You won't guess it. I'll give you 20 guesses. You won't guess it.
The number 4 team most likely to make the playoff. I won't guess it.
You won't guess it. I couldn't believe it. Ole Miss.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed it. I do have Ole Miss in the top 5, but is it just because the remaining schedule is that?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I mean, they've got Washington State at Georgia.
They got to go to Georgia. They got to go to Oklahoma.
I think they'll split
Florida
that.
Again.
South Carolina at home, Florida at home, at Mississippi State, and then the Citadel. I mean, it's hard to see them losing more than 2 games there. I think they'll split the big ones. They might drop a dumb one, but like they're probably going 10-2. And if they're 10-2 with, you know, a win over LSU, Arkansas, Tulane, like they're going to the playoff. So.
Yes. All right. Alabama 30, Vanderbilt 14. Diego Pavia was okay. Ty Simpson was very good. The
Mhm.
difference in this game was neither of them could score in the red. Neither of them could get in the end zone when they reached the red zone. Alabama was kicking field goals, and Diego Pavia had an interception and a fumble in the red
Yep.
zone, and that was ultimately it. And Bama gets a touchdown late to end up covering the spread because Vanderbilt was calling timeouts, kind of a late cover. Ty Simpson, like top 3 quarterback in the country right now. Like he's been incredible.
He has been really good. I'm excited to see. So I'm going to Mizzou this week.
Mizzou
Like
Bama at noon.
Mizzou Bama at noon. Bama, I think, like a 4-point favorite in that game. It's just going to be a good game. 2 really good teams, 2 really good quarterbacks that nobody was really talking about coming into the season. Like, it's very believable that they're having the kind of seasons that they are in Bo Perbula at Mizzou and Ty Simpson at Alabama. But, we've talked about Bama and this offense. But to me, I think defensively, this was probably more impressive to me to be able to slow down Vandy in that offense. And I think it says a lot about, this year versus last year, where Alabama is, where, man, they got pushed around in that game last year. They didn't lose that game because Vandy was doing weird stuff. Like, Vandy's offense is Vandy's offense. They've been running it up on everybody. And Bama said, no, we're not doing that. Really did a nice job. Diego Pavia did play well, but ultimately, like, if you could slow down this running game and make Diego Pavia throw it a ton and not let him beat you with his legs, that's the first step to beating Vandy. It's easier said than done. But shout out to Bama. That's a really good win. I agree with you. It's a little bit closer than the final score looked, but that's a good win.
And I think, like, what I said, I had this theory on a week or two ago on this podcast that Alabama has gone through the transition to the new level of college football now, where they hit a bottom and have bounced back up and now have learned to appreciate wins again. Because if you were to tell me a Nick Saban Alabama was to beat a Vanderbilt 30-14, you would closer than that, I think people would have been mad. But everybody's like impressed with Alabama now because I think we have finally reset the expectations for post Nick Saban Alabama, and we can kind of base it off of that. Like when DeBoer loses that first game to Florida State, we're all like, he's done at some point. Like, this is clearly just not working because he lost to another unranked team. Now, it turned out Florida State was pretty good. And it turned out week 1 is like, not the final version of a lot of teams. And Ty Simpson has been a lot better since then. And so I think now it's like, is there a team in the SEC you would take over Alabama right now?
Texas A&M.
Really?
I've been radicalized. I've been on A&M all year. Coming into the season, I was like, I don't want to say it too loudly because A&M and hype are a bit like oil and water. But I've been on like, this team is really, really good, and I think they're the best team in the league. I in my head, I don't know that I believe it, but in my gut and what I see on the field, I'm like, A&M's best team in the league. So
they were up 7-3 at halftime at Mississippi State. We'll get to that game later.
Mississippi State's good. What are we doing?
I think we've kind of recalculated what it means to win an SEC game now. I think we know that the floor in the SEC is so much higher and the ceiling is so much lower.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, part of that's just this year where there isn't an easy win. I mean, Kentucky's probably the closest thing. There's not an easy win, and there's nobody that can't be beaten. And yeah, I don't know if that's going to be the future of the league necessarily. I mean, maybe it is. I think that Georgia and Bama look not like we've gotten to know, but I could still see like a version of Georgia in a year, not every year like we saw, but in a year where nobody's beating this team. Period.
I don't know. We'll see. So good win for Alabama. Lots still to go. It's not like DeBoer is like the new big guy, but I think we've kind of reset expectations in a fair spot. Speaking of expectations, Florida State 29, Texas 21.
Florida
DJ
29.
Florida, I have all these written backwards. Florida 29, Texas 21.
Yeah.
DJ Lagway looks awesome. Arch Manning looks Dallas Wilson, the receiver for Florida, looks like, holy crap. This is the guy that they hyped up in the offseason that hadn't played yet, and then he puts the team on his back and carries him into the end zone. They block a punt for a safety. Florida's once again backs against the wall, playing hard for Billy Napier. And Florida, when they're 500, might be the best team in the country. They beat LSU last year, Ole Miss last year. It's bizarre. We could start all kinds of different ways with this game, but what do you want to start with?
I'm not willing to go there yet. I think Texas was just overrated. The offense has not been anything close to what we thought.
Nope.
And Chris, I've been saying this all season. People forget this. It's hard to win on the road in college football. I mean, you go in the swamp. It was rocking on Saturday. I just think Texas is just not that good. And Florida is pretty good. You're on the road. Florida, obviously more than capable of beating you. And I wasn't that surprised, at that game. And I think, when Florida has played teams that are actually good, they haven't really looked like what you would hope that a Florida team that brought back as much as they did would look like. And I just think Texas is not one of those teams. They don't stack up to the way that Miami does. So dare I say South Florida, but it's not. I'm just not that impressed necessarily with that win, because I think Texas. Why were they one of the 5 or 10 best teams in the country based on exactly what this year?
Hype. This is Everybody had talked about Arch. I had said my biggest question coming into the year was the offensive line, where they had to replace everybody. And guess what? The offensive line got destroyed by Florida yesterday, which wasn't even playing with its best defensive lineman. And Arch got sacked, I think, 6 times. You put some of that on him, some of that on the O-line, because Texas could not run the ball at all, all in that game. And so it was all Arch and all teeing off on him. And our colleague Grace Rayner wrote a good story in The Athletic, basically saying, what is Texas good at? We don't know. And the defense is pretty good, we think. And I think it was really solid.
They've been one of the 5. They've been one of the 5 best defenses in the country the last couple of years.
But they can't
because of the defensive tackle factory they've been churning out of.
Yes. But they have no rhythm on offense. It's once again the kind of thing that makes you wonder if Sarkisian's going to hire an offensive coordinator next year or not. He continues to call the plays. I think he's someone said his record against Florida, Bama, Ohio State, something like 3-7. It's 3-9 if you add Georgia. He has not won that many big games at Texas, and he lost twice to Georgia last year, and he almost lost to Arizona State in the playoff. And so he has absolutely raised the floor to what it should be at Texas. But when you have Arch Manning looking like he is, the offensive line looking like that is it's going to be, that's not good. The preseason numbers 1, 2, and 4 teams are unranked. That's number 1, Texas, number 2, Penn State, number 4, Clemson. All of them unranked for different reasons, but none of them are getting the quarterback play that we all thought that they were going to have. We thought they were going to.
I got a question for you, Chris. How much blame do you put on Sark for Arch's issues?
That's hard to say because I'm not in the program. It's not Sark's fault that Arch is missing easy throws.
That's kind of where I'm at. Is I think the Sark conversation would sound and look a lot different if Arch was just doing the basic things. And maybe he's banged up. It's hard to say. Offensively, they are a mess. And I think a lot of that does sort of come down at the feet of, Warby Parker's best salesman. But I think ultimately they're just missing a level of competency at quarterback that they have had. And, we talk about James Franklin. We talk about Mark Richt and, all these guys that are I did a study on this actually, Chris, when you don't let, don't be enticed by greatness and overlook, what's good in front of you. And man, Quinn was not the world beater that the recruiting rankings suggested that he might have been, but he was pretty good. And even when he was hurt, and they're missing that. They're missing that this year. I say this all the time, Chris. If you have a quarterback who can hit an open receiver when the pocket's clean and there's an open receiver, you're way ahead of the game. And I don't think Texas has that right now.
Yeah, this is 2 years in a row now that something Texas can't do is
run the ball.
And if you can't do that, it's going to be tough for your quarterback. All right, the game you were at, biggest one of the day. Clemson 38, UNC 10, in maybe the most false final score I've ever seen, because this was 35-3 at halftime. Clemson had like
28-3
at
at the end of the first quarter.
28-3 at the end of the first quarter. No, 28-0 out there. Or maybe it's 28-3. Clemson had not scored 28 points in a game this season. They scored 28 points in the first quarter. Clemson had like 200 yards on like the first like 9 plays or something like that. North Carolina looks like a high school team. There is no effort. There is no fundamentals. There is no understanding of what you're doing. I'm not going to say they're the worst Power 4 team because Oklahoma State exists and Boston College exists, but they're like right there in terms of like, they don't look like they deserve to be on the same field as they've played 3 Power 4 opponents. They've lost to all of them by at least 25 points. David, you wrote a column about this, about how it's inexcusable.
Yes.
I leave the floor to you.
Chris, I will intro it like this. Did you see the email? I don't think we'll call it leaked, but that Football Scoop ran from General Manager Mike Lombardi to donors and boosters last week for North Carolina.
Yes.
In that letter, he basically explains, hey, we lost a lot of players. He was outlining some of the numbers of, hey, the class of 2022, we only have this many guys that are contributing. And basically says, hey, we are planning on taking 40 high school kids next year. Normal recruiting class is like 20, 25. This is not going to work, Chris. This is a bad plan. This is a bad plan.
To me, I read that as like, hey, everybody, we're here. We're in this for the long haul because we're going to go get high school guys. Like, I don't know if they are or not, but that's what it is.
So a couple things in the crux of my column. And this is where I'm going to try not to yell. Okay. We talked about 70 new players. Well, why did you need 70 new players? Okay. You didn't have any big hit portal necessarily. Like Gio Lopez was probably the best one, and he hasn't really been great, and he's been hurt. But it points to 2 things. One, did you run guys out of your program that you just replaced with worse players in the portal? Because this has been a competitive program. It was very solid under Mac Brown. It was not great. I don't blame them for firing Mac Brown.
The history of North Carolina football is going 6-6. Like they rarely have like horrible seasons. They never have great seasons. They never have horrible seasons. They're always perfectly average. And that's what they generally were under Mac.
And now they look pretty horrible. So, okay, maybe you didn't think they were up to your standard, but then did you not see what might be in the portal? This was the worst portal year that we've seen in a long time because a lot of programs have figured out that the devil you know is better than the devil you don't.
Yes.
Pay the players that you have and develop them. Keep them.
That's a larger thing. That's a larger thing real quick. Like the quality of the transfer portal is getting worse every single year because teams have learned how to pick players. You cannot build your team in the portal anymore. This is not like it was 2, even 3 years ago. And so I wasn't in the program at UNC. I don't know if they ran kids off or they couldn't keep them or what.
They definitely ran some kids off. And so like that's part of it. But then the guys that you do want to keep, the Bo Atkinsons of the world, he's at Ohio State. Amari Campbell, he is at Penn State, killing it. Howard Sampson, he's starting left tackle for Texas Tech, who's probably going to be in the playoff, probably the best team in the Big 12. The guys that you want to keep, why can't you keep them? If you have money, like the whole thing with hiring Bill Belichick is, I'm going to walk into these kids' living rooms. I'm going to walk up to their agents or the kids and say, hey, I got 6 Super Bowl rings. I can develop you into an NFL player. I want you to come play for me. That magnetism is not happening. They're not bringing in guys, and then they're losing guys that they do want. So let's say that this high school thing works, okay, and you hit on a bunch of high school kids, and you can cry about loyalty. Like there were some weird comments in the letter, about like we're no allegiance to anything anymore. So if you can't keep really good players that you came in for, why do you think you're going to be able to keep these high school kids if you're not going to pay and you're not going to be able to keep them around? Like, I don't really get that case. And the idea that like, well, we recruited them in high school, so they're going to have a better relationship with us. Like, are you sure? That doesn't seem like a good plan. And that hit rate, considering how you've been recruiting in the portal and the guys that you took, you're asking people to trust your evaluation, to trust your development. Based on what? And you can talk about patience. You can talk about we need this, we need that. Well, look around the sport, okay? I cited these examples in the column. Fran Brown took a 6-win team, and they turned him into a 10-win team. It's not going great this year. Their quarterback's hurt, whatever, okay? You got Kurt Signetti, Chris. We can fight about this in a little bit. I'm not talking about they don't need to get to the playoff, but you should be competent, okay? And then you go to UCF you play against Scott Frost, who took over a 4-win team, hasn't coached in college football since 2022, and you can't stay within 4 touchdowns of them. It doesn't make any sense. It's a ridiculous. Like the idea that you need patience, you need time. It's not 2008 anymore. The sport has changed, and nobody's asking you to do a Deion easy bake oven version of a team. But this idea that we need to get 40 high schoolers and we need 2 or 3 years to get our program in there is so ridiculous. It's grasping at straws. It's almost like gaslighting your boosters of like, it's not possible to win, so we need to do this thing that probably is not going to work. And there's a lot of holes in this plan. And it's like, it felt like he was writing a letter. I would encourage you to read it if you haven't on Football Scoop. It felt like he was writing a letter to people who haven't been paying attention to college football, because if you've been paying attention to the sport at all, the number of just like logical fallacies and things that are like devoid of reality in that letter is insane. And I just don't understand the strategy for what they're doing. And it points to a staff that doesn't know how to succeed in the modern world of college football and is not very good at evaluating talent. And if you look at how the Patriots drafted late in Bill Belichick's era, it feels like they get a lot of credit for doing things that they didn't really do. And Tom Brady is not walking through that door.
Yeah, Belichick's record without Tom Brady is something like 80-something and 100 and something. It's not great. Did you see Nick Saban made the comment about when Mac Jones had a big game for the 49ers the other day? He was like, well, he wasn't really set up great in New England. Maybe because one year because one year his offensive coordinator is currently the Ohio State defensive coordinator in Matt Patricia. So like we have a long history now of Belichick not making the right decisions. The schedule is favorable the rest of the way, but it's possible it gets so bad.
It's been favorable the whole time, Chris.
It is. That's
fine.
Like, does Bill Belichick do this for more than a year? I lean yes, because I think he's stubborn enough to do it, and 2, North Carolina cannot pay to get out of it. The buyout to fire him would be about $20 million because the first 3 years of his $10 million salary are guaranteed. It only cost $1 million, though, for Belichick to go leave on his own. So I don't know. It's too early still. We're halfway through the season, but it might, it's bad right now, and I don't think it's going to get better for North Carolina, and I think that is a concern. All right, that's enough on a terrible team.
It is. We'll get to them more. I will say before we go on, at some point he's going to have to stop mumbling and offer a coherent explanation to fans about like, well, you just got to get better. You just got to do you're going to drive your fans insane. Let's move on.
Well, the fans were gone at halftime, so they're sad.
Well,
all right. Washington 24, Maryland 20 in one of the more program heart-destroying games I think you can possibly have. Maryland comes into this game 4-0. You've got Malik Washington, a great freshman quarterback. You sell out the stadium. You're up 20-0 in the second half and 20-3 in the fourth quarter against Washington, and you lose. Washington scores 3 touchdowns, comes back to win 24-20. Maryland had 5 drops in this game. I don't know how you get a program to come back and get fans to ever believe in you again after dropping that, because we know about September Maryland. It's very much a thing. Mike Locksley in August and September as the head coach, 21-5. In October, he's now 7-14. And after you blow this game this way, I do not know how anybody there will ever believe in you again, frankly. Just as gutting a loss for a fan base I could imagine.
Yeah, man, that's probably enough on the Maryland front. I will say from the Washington front, you probably like what you saw for a couple things. One, coming off of last week at Ohio State, it was 20-0 in this game. To get off the mat is an impressive thing, and to rally the way that they did, I think that speaks to a team that is still pretty bought in. Where what would have been at this point 45-6, you've been outscored the last 7 quarters, and Maryland ain't Ohio State. So it is a nightmare for Maryland, but I think it's one that can inspire a lot from Washington. And I still am like, this is a conference game, Chris. I still think in my
this was on Big Ten Network.
Of course it was. In my head, Maryland is still in the ACC and Washington's in the Pac-12. And Washington, Maryland being a conference game is interesting. Can we also say, Chris, while we're on the topic, I don't know if Tony Petitti needs to send out a memo or we need to cut microphones or what we need to do. We cannot have any more Big Ten complaining about the travel.
No, and I don't think that happened here.
No, it didn't. But I'm just talking about in
Lincoln
general.
Riley
it's been a
mentioned
talking point
it
all season. It's been a talking point. No more. I'm
never.
tired of it. Every time I hear it, I want to throw something out the window because it was bad for the sport. It was bad for the kids. It was bad for everything except for the bank accounts of the schools and the TV money for the schools, which the fans never see. And Duke fans have got to be up at 2 a.m. watching their football team play. All this stuff makes no sense. It sucks for everyone. Take your money and shut up. I'm tired of the complaints. I'm tired of
Don't worry. We might, if you're in the Big Ten, you might get an even bigger influx of money through private capital that's being discussed, and then you'll see more ads than you can possibly imagine on your football game experience. So
all I know is I love the Denver Post, and every time that I get a chance to read the Denver Post, I think, man, when private equity got a hold of that, it was a much better product and people loved it. And it did a great job of serving its city better. Everything private equity touches gets better. So
I do wonder, with such a classic game between these two teams that are literally complete opposite sides of the country, I wonder if Venmo will sponsor this now as a Big Ten rivalry series. So get ready for more of that. All right. Virginia 30, Louisville 27 in overtime. Louisville completely blew this game.
Yes.
They gave up a fumble return for a touchdown. They threw a pick six, a really bad one from Miller Moss as he's like falling to the ground. Louisville's numbers were not good in this game, but they won. And they're now 5-1 with a remaining schedule of Washington State, North Carolina, Cal, Wake Forest, Duke, Virginia Tech. Folks, it's actually time to think about the possibility that Virginia could go to the ACC championship game. It really could happen.
Forget that, Chris. They might go to the playoff. And I was talking with Austin Mock last night because we were talking about Bubble Watch and talking about Virginia. Still only a 12% chance to make the playoff in his model, an 11% chance to win the ACC championship. But I don't know about those numbers, man. When you watch Virginia, this is a good football team. They are.
I mean, this was not the game to say that, though.
No, but when you watch them, you're not like, oh, this it's not like the same. We talked about Louisville on After Dark. I mean, UNLV on After Dark. You watch Louisville, you're like, how is this team undefeated? This team's not good. I don't see that when I've watched Virginia at any point this year. Forget the Florida State game. Yes, this was not a great performance. Virginia, the floor is pretty low. If they could lose to almost any of those teams, probably not Wazoo, maybe not UNC, but Cal, Wake, Duke, Virginia Tech, all those teams can beat Virginia. But considering how bad this program has been and how slow moving it has been under Tony Elliott, this is by far the best team that he's had. They had real weapons. Chandler Morris, flawed as he is a pretty fun quarterback and does raise their ceiling quite a bit. He's fun to watch, man. And they blew a 10-point lead in I think the fourth quarter and came back.
They did have a 10-point lead in this game too, by the way, despite how they were playing.
Exactly. And so yeah, man, I'm in on Virginia. I think they're going to be in the hunt. I don't know that I buy them to get there, but I mean, just the fact that we're having this conversation, I mean, is that success on its own? Just that they're in the mix? I mean, unless you just lose out. Virginia, it feels like they're destined for a 9-win season, and there's a chance that they could be 11-1, 10-2, stiff in the playoff.
They haven't made a bowl game in years, so even that is something. So Virginia, this is the kind of win that happens in a special season that you shouldn't have won and you pulled it out. You move on to the next one. That's the kind of win you want to have.
And this is why I also like the 12-team playoff, because of teams like Virginia can dream about this, and getting in the playoff would be deeply meaningful for Virginia, the same way that it was for Indiana. Yes, they want it to end better, but getting in there is a big deal. And if Virginia in the 14 playoff era, Virginia's not stiff in the 14 playoff, but they could really get into the 12 team. And I like that idea. That said, still not loving the idea of 16, but this is one of the pluses of expanding the playoff is you have a lot more relevant teams. And right now that includes UVA.
Another team like that Cincinnati 38, Iowa
Good
State
team.
30. We told you about the Cincinnati offense. They're up 31-7 in this game, and I tweeted, hey, I was like, hey, bunch formation. We told you to watch out for that Cincinnati offense, number 3 in the country in yards per play. And as soon as I tweeted that, the game totally changed. So it's my fault. I also tweeted about Maryland and puffed our chest out, and then it really went south. So that's my fault. We got a good jinxing thing going, or I have a good jinxing thing. We, the bunch formation universe, have a jinxing thing apparently going on. But Cincinnati's up in this game 31-7. And then Iowa State scores a touchdown and a 2-point conversion as the first half ends, starts the second half, gets another touchdown, and suddenly we got a game again. And it was a little iffy there at the end. Iowa State was down a lot of guys on defense. Both their starting cornerbacks are out for the year. But ultimately, Brendan Sorsby, 3 touchdowns total, almost 270 total yards. Cincinnati rushed for 7.6 yards per carry, without any like crazy explosives either, 260 yards. So it's not like one run skewed that. Seems very good at running the ball. We knew that week 1 against Nebraska. They are now 4-1, I think, overall. Maybe 5-1. I got to double check that. But this might be 4-1. This could be last year's Arizona State. Could be a team that wins close games, has a fun quarterback and a fun offense. What are your thoughts?
If you get Cincinnati 60 minutes in Arlington, like, be careful. Like, they're capable of beating a bunch of teams. Experience, some really good weapons, and obviously Sorsby's can be touching the ball on every play. Like, it's a guy that you got a lot of faith in. I think in the grand scheme of like the Big 12 quarterback class, he wasn't getting a lot of love, but he deserved more than he should have, or he deserved more than he got. I mean,
you know who they don't play this year? They don't play Texas Tech. Next 2 games, UCF, Oklahoma State. You should win those games.
Yep.
If you win those games, you're 6-1 with Baylor, Utah, Arizona, BYU, TCU. So a tough final 5-ish games there. But I mean, Scott Satterfield came into the year on the hot seat. Everybody wanted him gone. The feeling from the people around Cincinnati that I talked to was like, we really don't want to have to fire him because 1, we like him. 2, it's hard to compare it to Luke Fickell because Luke Fickell was playing in the American. And 3, the buyout to fire him was like pretty high for Cincinnati. And so I think you're off that now. Like, this team should be going to a bowl game. And as long as they made a bowl game and were competitive, the feeling was they were going to keep him. So I think that's going to happen here.
I kind of feel bad for Iowa State a little bit, by the way. I was not a believer in Ohio State. I mean, I think I said coming in, like, this is not one of the 15 best teams in the country. I'd watched them enough to know that. But, you lose both your starting corners. Like, they just were struggling offensively. You knew you couldn't put you couldn't put your corners on an island, so they can't really, like, you got to have your safeties help. So then they're getting gashed in the running game, but then they couldn't really, like, do a ton there. It just schematically they were chasing their tail a little bit defensively, and I felt bad for him on that. So
Rocco Becht in this game on one play, he gets face masked, turned his head, and he gets out of it, runs forward, and then gets laid out on a targeting, all on the same play. He came out of the game, but he came back in because that dude is tough as nails. All right, other games of note that we'll move through quickly here. Texas Tech 35, Houston 11. Houston falls from the ranks of the undefeated, just as Iowa State did. Texas Tech dominates this game, 552 yards to 267. They are the clear Big 12 favorite, top 10 team now. They look good. They are as dominant.
You put a brand name on Texas Tech. If you put a brand name on Texas Tech, a blue-blooded name on them, they're with what they've done. That's a top 5 team. And watch them.
Maybe Cody Campbell. Maybe Cody Campbell should be running commercials geared toward the selection committee and the.
It's not worth getting into that, but buddy, that is some. If that's what it looks like on paper, that is Cody's in the right there. So,
all right. Texas A&M 31, Mississippi State 9. This game was 7-3 at halftime, but then A&M pulls away in the second half. They rushed for more than 300 yards. A&M's defense has allowed 1 third down conversion out of 23 attempts in the last 2 games.
Sounds like a good team, Chris.
They look good. Mississippi State played hard in this for a while. Fluff Bothwell had a bad-looking leg injury late in the game. That really sucks to see.
He's awesome.
We'll find out, but he's great. That's a big loss for them.
Yeah,
I hate to see it late in the game too. There was one moment where Jeff Lebby called a timeout on a 4th down that he was going to go for and then punted. To which I'm like, well, then why just take the delay of game? Don't waste the time out. It didn't matter, but I didn't love that coaching decision. A&M, you have them as the top team in the SEC. They have Florida next. They've got the real meat of the schedule coming up. Florida, Arkansas, then LSU, Missouri, South Carolina, Stanford. I take that back, actually. The schedule is actually quite favorable. Yeah. I mean, they only play 2 currently ranked teams the rest of the year. So we'll see if they can do it. We mentioned this on the After Dark, but I wanted to hit it here. Texas A&M Police Twitter account, a favorite among college football Twitter. They tweet during the game. Responded to report of intoxicated subject in men's restroom near section 334. Called sober friend. Sober friend arrived intoxicated. Arrested. I don't know about that, man. That kind of feels like entrapment or something. I need to know. I don't know the process of when you supposedly call sober friend or sober wife, which is a frequent character in the Texas A&M Police Twitter account. How does that happen? Does the drunk person give you the phone, say call my wife, or they call their wife? How does that work exactly? If I'm the sober friend, if I'm the quote unquote sober friend who arrives intoxicated and gets arrested, I'm pretty mad at my friend there, right?
Yes, I think you have to be. I want to know more about this specific instance. There were a lot of those. I mean, listen, the blackout game, we had somebody drop 2 red Solo cups when they saw cops. One guy was walking and had a beer fall out of his shorts, and then cops stopped him, and he had multiple more beers like in his shorts. The A&M Police Twitter account was on one.
They lean into it. They lean into it for sure. TCU 35, Colorado 21. Colorado was up 14-0 in this game. Then a bizarre end of the first half. TCU ties it up. It's 21-all. TCU pulls away. TCU looks pretty good. I think they will continue to be in the Big 12 race. But notably here,
quarterback problems.
Well, and Deion Sanders mentioned after the game, he's worried that his blood clots might be back, and he said his leg has been throbbing. David, you wrote about this briefly, but it's the kind of thing where it's like the health issues are adding up for Deion.
Yeah.
Where 1, you just hope he's okay, and 2, it makes you wonder maybe how much longer he's going to be doing this.
I mean, Saturday he was coaching with 1 shoe for a lot of the fourth quarter. And he has already like special shoes made. So he on his left foot, he already had his big toe and second toe amputated. He had some complications from a surgery. I believe it stems from turf toe. That just had kind of ballooned into some other stuff. And then he had a poor reaction coming off of his surgery. So he's been dealing with that issue, but they weren't really an issue last year. His limp had kind of gone away. But now it seems like it's back, and you hope he's okay. That's a scary thing. He's going to go see a doctor on Monday. But yeah, I mean, you've already got the toilet on the sidelines from the bladder issues that he's dealing with. You add like foot pain to that, and he has to sit on a stool for a lot of that. Like, you need to be clear-headed as a head coach. If you're in a ton of pain while you're coaching, like that's a high degree of difficulty. Coaching's already hard enough. You add that in, like, man, it's tough. So hopefully he's doing okay and get this behind him.
Hope the best for Deion. We'll find out if any news happens during the week. Nebraska 38, Michigan State 27. A really weird game. I don't think either team hit 300 yards. Nebraska's up 14-0 early thanks to a blocked punt touchdown. Almost every Nebraska score except for one was on a short field. Aiden Childs scrambled for a bunch and made some plays, but he had 2 bad interceptions. He got injured early in the game and came back. Bizarre game, but there was one play, Nebraska's got a first down. I think it was after a big punt return or something like that. And then they get sacked 3 times in a row against a Michigan State team that cannot rush the passer. These were 2 teams that cannot protect their quarterbacks, and it made for some very funny football. Nebraska throwing nonstop swing passes. Michigan State dropping back and get their quarterback hit a lot. Anyway, that's the kind of game Michigan State, like if you want to have like a 7-8 win season, you need that game. Didn't happen. Nebraska gets the win, ugly win. The win against
these 2
Cincinnati
teams are not
better.
Great watches, man. These are
to the point though, but I think I've got Nebraska in my top 25 though, because they have the win over Cincinnati and they have 1 loss, and their 1 loss is to a top 20 team. So Nebraska, I don't know how good you are, but right now you're moving up in the rankings.
I respect the resume, and you did not pass the eye test at all.
Yes. Baylor 35, Kansas State 34, and another bonkers game. Baylor blocks a field goal at the buzzer to get the win after they had hit their own 50-yarder before that. Not only that, Kansas State's leading by 6 in the fourth quarter of this game. Then Avery Johnson throws a 66-yard pick six that goes the other way. Kansas State then had a long touchdown pass negated because at around the 20-yard line, Baylor pulls the receiver's helmet off and the receiver goes into the end zone. The rule, it's a dead ball when the helmet comes off. It was penalized for a face mask, but that doesn't become a touchdown, which would have given them the lead, I think, or a bigger lead. They end up kicking a field goal instead, and then the game ends the way it does. Feel bad. That's a tough look for K-State. Avery Johnson actually played very well in this game. Baylor fans were booing the team. The stadium was empty, and they come back and win. So just like classic Big 12 stuff here. Any feelings on any of that?
I mean, Baylor seems to have a way of pulling some of these games out. Dave Aranda didn't dig himself into a hole like he did last year at some times. So it's hard to believe K-State's 2-4, man. It's really hard to believe because K-State, watch them and you're like, you see the talent. I think schematically there are some issues. Offensively, they are not great, but that was probably their best offensive performance. But man, 2-4, man, it's hard to believe.
Best 2-4 team in the country. Baylor has a overtime comeback win against SMU, a last-second field goal loss to Arizona State, and this. So you're just living by the seat of your pants there at Baylor. Notre Dame 28, Boise State 7. Boise was actually up 7-6 in the second quarter of this game, but Notre Dame ultimately just kind of pushed them around and made up for some early red zone mistakes and got it done, took care of business. Notable thing to hear, though, for me, as the AP poll comes out today. Now, the AP poll is not the playoff rankings. We do not know what the CFP committee would do. But Notre Dame is now the highest ranked 2-loss team at number 16. They're the only other 2-loss team even ranked is Florida State at 25. Like Notre Dame's, if the CFP ranks Notre Dame similar, that's a position where 10-2s put you in the playoff. Like just based on where you are. I do not have Notre Dame that high. I have them a little bit lower in like around 20. And I have Florida State one spot ahead of Notre Dame because I think the resume is clearly better. Notre Dame doesn't have a good win. They're not going to have a good win, probably.
They're going to have a bunch of okay wins if they're sitting there at 10-2.
Yeah, like Florida State's still ranked, thankfully. I still think the pollsters really just gave up on them way too quickly. This is a team that has a loss to the number 1 or number 2 team in the country in Miami, an overtime loss against a 1-loss Virginia team that we now think is maybe pretty good. And you beat Alabama. That's not a team that should be hanging on. That is a better resume than Notre Dame, who only has a close loss to Miami, a close loss to Texas A&M. And I know they both played Miami. Notre Dame played them close. I get that. But there's no wins there. So Notre Dame playoff, like it looks like that may be happening.
We'll see if this was a blip or this was a game for the defense. The defense had been not good all year. And they just ground Boise into dust in this game.
All right, now let's go to American Corner presented by Soar the Eagle. Not a real sponsorship, but it should.
I believe that's the first multi-platform brand ambassador in conference history.
Yeah, this is the American Don't Call Us Athletic Conference. Navy 34, Air Force 21. 2 straight years the over hits in the Service Academy game for one. Blake Horvath over 500 total yards. This was an unexpected shootout. Navy wide receiver Eli Heidenreich 8 catches, 243 yards. Technically he's a wide receiver, but his position name is he's a snipe is what he is. He's one of the most prolific receivers in Navy football history. They escape Air Force. Air Force had the ball and a chance to win, but they didn't. Navy wins that. They've got Temple and FAU next before North Texas and then Notre Dame. It's very possible Navy gets to something like 7-0, 8-0 coming up. Keep an eye on Navy. Memphis 45, Tulsa 7. Memphis is now 6-0. And at home, the second half of the American Conference schedule is going to be nuts. There's going to be so many big games in this league with the winner almost certainly getting the college.
The Memphis Tulane game, I'm fired up for. Like that, Memphis looks like they're going to challenge Tulane as like the best G5 team. Clearly,
well, Memphis has USF, Tulane, and Navy all at home this year. So if you were going to make a run, this is the time to do it because USF and Navy don't play each other. So that's big. Tulane has East Carolina this week on a Thursday. I'm going to be there. And then USF North Texas on Friday, which I'm also going to be at. big games in the American. Another one here, Temple 27, UTSA 21. Temple is now
weird game.
Temple is now 3-2 after going 4 straight 3-9 seasons. Casey Keeler, good coach, man, continues to be a really good coach.
I told y'all this is a pro Casey Keeler podcast. We've been on this for a while. Chris, you maybe have beat me to the punch, but you can smell it on coaches. I've been saying this.
What's it smell like?
It smells like competence and having a plan and a track record for success at different places. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. That's the kind of loss also that's going to hurt Jeff Traylor's case to try to get the Arkansas job. Is UTSA is now, I think, 2-3. So
yeah,
continues to not be great post Frank Harris. One other game on here, not related, but I just kind of wanted to talk about how it ended. Arkansas State 31, Texas State 30 out of the Sun Belt. So the game's tied with a minute to go. Texas State's at the goal line with a minute left. Arkansas State has 2 timeouts. Instead of trying to run clock down or cause Arkansas State to use its timeouts and maybe kick a field goal, Texas State just runs the ball and Arkansas State lets them in. Like the one of the guys on Arkansas State is trying to signal a touchdown because it was close if you got in or not. The Texas State guy. So Texas State takes the lead. They miss the extra point. Arkansas State then goes down the field in a minute, scores a winning touchdown and extra point with 10 seconds left. Brutal loss for Texas State, which was looking to go to 4-1 and as similar to Jeff Traylor there. Like that's a bad loss to a 1-win Arkansas State team for GJ Kennedy and your hopes of bigger jobs and whatnot. So tough one there, but the group of 5, we acknowledge you on that. And with that,
so all the schools that fired coaches this year are just not going to hire coaches, I guess.
Maybe not. So with that, we're going to go to the helmet stickers where we shout out 2 players who went under the radar for their performance. I'm going to go with Gabby on the College Game Day Pat McAfee kick. All right, not really, but let me just stay with me here. So I had complained on this show and on Twitter that 2 weeks in a row, you win a raffle to do the kick on game day. 2 straight people had picked a friend to kick. And the kid at Penn State last week, the soccer player, makes it easy. I said I think that's against the spirit of the rule. If you get picked, you should be the one to kick. So Gabby does not pick a friend to kick for her. She decides to be the one to kick. The problem is she's never kicked a football before in her life. And the first kick goes exactly as you would expect. It's just a dribbler goes nowhere. And McAfee and Kirk Herbstreit realized very quickly, this is not good television. And this is kind of sad. And so Herbstreit brings up the idea of McAfee's going to do the kick for her. And then McAfee says, no, Kirk Herbstreit, if you throw it through the uprights, she gets $300,000. Kirk Herbstreit does easily, obviously, and she wins $300,000. And I just got to say, props to Gabby. It's a lesson in not having someone else do your work for you, trying your hardest, even if you fail. Sometimes you can get rewarded for doing that. So I'm glad that happened. Shout out to Gabby. Anyway, this is me on my stupid McAfee kick soapbox. My actual pick for the helmet sticker, Western Carolina quarterback Teron Dickens. This is unbelievable. He completed 46 consecutive passes against Wofford. He finished 53 for 56 for 378 yards, 3 touchdowns, 46 straight completions. The previous NCAA record was 29. The previous record over multiple games was 36. He did 46. He also ran for 44 yards. And Western Carolina had no turnovers in this game, and they only won the game 23-21. Like they barely, win this game. That is one of the craziest box scores and stats I've ever seen. 46 consecutive completions.
Mr. Dickens, welcome to Chapel Hill in 2026.
Yeah, well, man, that's wild. Shout out to him. Dave, who you got?
I am going to go with the lead man in Cincinnati's back. We talked about that running game. Evan Pryor, 10 carries, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. But did you see his truck stick of the Iowa State defender?
Yes.
It's one of the nastiest trucks I have seen all season long. It's one where you just really ragdoll the defender. And listen, If you've ever watched a game like on the field, on the sidelines, like these guys are big, they are moving fast. Like it is a violent game out there. All these guys are big and can run. And man, he made them just look like child's play. So shout out to Evan Pryor. That was a sick play and a huge day for him, helping carry the Bearcats to a massive win. They are on the inside track here to maybe sneaking in the playoff here.
Good pick. David, week 7 is looking pretty loaded.
It is.
We've got Red River. We got Texas, Oklahoma. We got Indiana, Oregon, which is where College Game Day is going to go. I love that. By the way, back-to-back weeks, College Game Day goes to a Vanderbilt game and to an Indiana game. Like, college football is pretty fun right now.
It is.
All the complaints from a lot of people. Like, it's a lot of fun. I wanted to rant here for a minute. Maybe I'll save it for later because I've done it before. But, like, everybody complaining about Texas, Penn State, Clemson being overrated in the preseason and calling the AP poll criminal, and this is why we don't need preseason, yada, yada, yada. Enjoy the upsets. Why are we so cynical about this? In 2007, the number 2 team in the country lost several weeks in a row. USF reached number 2. If we had today's social media environment, then USF going up to number 2 would just lead everybody to complain and dox reporters and do all this kinds of stuff. Like, I don't understand why we went from this place where we celebrated upsets to now we're just mad that it's an upset in the first place because the team was ranked so high at a time when the AP poll carries less weight than ever. In 2007, it was part of the BCS. Like, it means nothing now, and yet people are madder than ever about the poll. Enjoy, like, Texas, Penn State, Clemson, all these things happening. Like, that's the fun of the sport. Like, I don't want a preseason poll that turns out to be 100% accurate. What's the fun in that? The fun is the journey of the season. So I'm tired of people complaining about the poll's existence. You can complain about where teams are ranked in the poll. That's the point of it. But this idea that, the voters don't know ball, it's criminal that this team is there. It's a ridiculous idea that the poll should even exist. It's just so far out of what college football is and what makes it fun. Enjoy when a winless team beats a top 10 team for the first time in 40 years. Your reaction should be, that was crazy, that was fun, and not, well, Penn State was overrated. Have some fun with this sport.
Yes. Okay? Before we remember some guys, Chris, in this house, we respect Matt Grothe.
What are you referencing there? What am I missing?
2007 USF starting quarterback.
Yes. Sorry. I was thinking,
we won't talk about the head coach.
Cal reached number 2. Boston College reached number 2. Boston College reached number 2, and they went to the Champ Sports Bowl that year because they played Michigan State.
I believe that was Matt Ryan, right?
Yes. And you know what? That's cool. So just enjoy that. Anyway, I didn't mean to rant, but then I just had to fit it in here somewhere. I'll clip that and put it somewhere. All right. We're going to end the show the way we always do, and that is by remembering, not Matt Grothe, but remembering some other guys.
It's better than this. Guys being dudes.
And I'm going to go in the spirit of a Florida quarterback who came in very highly touted and may lose his head coach. I'm going to go with Chris Leak, Florida quarterback 2003 to 2006. Highly touted, comes in for Ron Zook, plays pretty well. Ron Zook gets fired. Urban Meyer comes in and wins a national championship with Leak and Tim Tebow. Leak is one of the first Florida quarterbacks I remember kind of as a fan as I was getting into the sport. And
no sexy Rexy, Chris? No sexy Rexy?
Never fully lived up to the hype, I don't think, but he won a national championship, and it feels a lot like DJ Lagway's situation right now. So coming off the Texas win, that was my thought. Chris Leak.
I mean, that is really interesting. I want to, like, the totality of DJ Lagway's career is, like, going to be fascinating. I think there's a lot of story left there.
The problem is,
looks like,
when Ron Zook got fired, Chris Leak couldn't just transfer somewhere and play somewhere and get paid to do it. And if Billy Napier gets fired, keeping DJ Lagway is probably not going to happen because
it depends on who you hire. I wouldn't be so sure. We'll see. I'm going to go with Brett Hundley in the spirit of UCLA quarterbacks, current and former, having big days. Just like a fun guy running around, like pretty good passer. Like, stuck around the NFL. Is he still in the NFL? I remember he was with the Packers for a little while. I don't know. I don't pay that close attention.
That was a while ago. You're the one who watches the NFL all day, not me.
I watch it, but I don't. I watch it and I pay enough attention to manage my fantasy team, and that's pretty much it. But
he was in
Brett
he was
just
in
like a fun guy.
He was in the XFL in 2023. His last play, he was with the Ravens in 22.
Okay. Either way, very fun UCLA quarterback. Oversaw a fun era of UCLA football. Shout out to Brett Hundley.
Absolutely. And we have a lot of submissions now because we asked for some and we got a bunch. So we will get to them over the episodes. Send your nominations
By the way,
to bunchformationpod@gmail.com.
Do you have a hard time telling apart Brett Hundley and DTR as players? If you showed me a highlight, I'm not sure I would be able to tell which is which.
I'll let you be the one to say that. I'm not saying it. All right, we got a nomination from Phil. I think it's Willette. Looks like a French last name.
Weird name, Phil, but all right, cool.
Hey guys, love the pod and really appreciate this part of the show. Started getting into college football with NCAA 98 and love the 2002-2003 timeline that you have shared as far as getting into the sport. I oftentimes think of T.A. McClendon from NC State. Unreal freshman season, complete cheat code in NCAA going into his sophomore year, but injuries got the best of him for the rest of his career. Hope you remember him, but my quintessential college football player from that era. McClendon played at NC State 2002 to 2004. Dave, do you have any memories? I do remember him a little bit.
A little bit, but not a ton. Like, I don't have any like hardcore, like, oh, I remember a specific play, but I remember him existing. But that's kind of it.
Yeah, he was first team All ACC 2002, rushed for 1,100 yards, but was just kind of injured.
People forget though, Chris, like the middling, like power conference teams in the Jefferson Pilot era, like it was hard to watch game. Like I lived in Arkansas. Like if NC State's playing a game, it's hard to watch NC State. You didn't have ESPN Plus or the ACC network or all this stuff. Like every now and then, take a moment to appreciate that. Like you can pretty much watch every college football game with relative ease in 2020.
Look, that's another thing people only complain about.
Yes.
Look,
we won't get into
the
app subscription stuff, but
look, I live in Dallas, and Baylor, Kansas State was on ESPN Plus, and I don't pay for it, so I couldn't watch it. So that was like annoying, but I could if I was really trying to do it. That used to just not be the case.
We got to get you on that Hulu, ESPN Plus, Disney Plus.
I've got the Disney, HBO, Hulu one. I haven't done the ESPN per yet because I'm just trying to wait to see if YouTube TV will add it to the cable package like some of these others do, because they got the WWE events now too. So it's a whole big thing. Anyway, Chris Leak, Brett Hundley, T.A. McClendon, we remember you guys. And before we go, the second show of this week, our Week 7 preview show, it's going to be shorter than normal. And it's going to be recorded earlier in the week. We're going to put it up Thursday, but we're going to record it probably like Monday and just do picks because I'm going to be traveling to Tulane for the week. David's got some stuff going on as well. So we aren't able to record it at a normal time. So just know that you will have it. You will have the picks episode later in the week. It's just going to be shorter than normal without going into as many things. Just the way it is this week. We also won't have After Dark because we'll both be at games on Saturday, but looking forward to recording that. Week 7 is going to be fun, man. We're halfway through the season. I think maybe like 3 teams are good, and that's gonna make for a very fun final stretch in every single conference, frankly. So, for David Ubben, I'm Chris Vannini. Thank you for listening to Bunch Formation, and we will talk to you on Tape Delay on Thursday.
And bring back the turnover chain, even on Tape Delay.